I seek to learn and share with you my own journey and path of learning and understanding on the level 1M. The interpretation and views are my own. The Prophet, on pleasure by Kahlil Gibran, then a hermit, who visited the city once a year, came forth and said, "Speak to us of pleasure." And he answered, saying, "Pleasure is a freedom song, but it is not freedom. It is the blossoming of your desires, but it is not their fruit. It is a depth calling unto a height, but it is not the deep nor the high. It see the cage taking wing, but it is not space encompassed. In very truth, pleasure is a freedom song. And I fain would have you sing it with fullness of heart, yet I would not have you lose your hearts in the singing. Some of your youth seek pleasure as if it were all, and they are judged and rebuked. I would not judge nor rebuke them. I would have them seek. For they shall find pleasure, but not her alone. 7 are her sisters, and the least of them is more beautiful than pleasure. Have you not heard of the man who was digging in the earth for roots and found a treasure? And some of your elders remember pleasure with regret like wrongs committed in drunkenness. But regret is the beclouding of the mind and not its chastisement. They should remember their pleasures with gratitude, as they would the harvest of a summer. Yet if it comforts them to regret, let them be comforted. And there are among you those who are neither young to seek nor old to remember, and in their fear of seeking and remembering they shun all pleasures, lest they neglect the Spirit or offend against it. But even in their foregoing is their pleasure. And thus they too find a treasure though they dig for roots with quivering hands. But tell me, who is he that can offend the Spirit? Shall the nightingale offend the stillness of the night, or the firefly the stars? And shall your flame or your smoke burden the wind? Think you the Spirit is a still pool which you can trouble with a staff? Oftentimes in denying yourself pleasure you do but store the desire in the recesses of your being. Who knows but that which seems omitted today, waits for tomorrow? Even your body knows its heritage and its rightful need and will not be deceived. And your body is the harp of your soul, and it is yours to bring forth sweet music from it or confused sounds. And now you ask in your hearts, how shall we distinguish that which is good and pleasure from that which is good? Go to your fields and your gardens, and you shall learn that it is the pleasure of the bee to gather honey of the flower, but it is also the pleasure of the flower to yield its honey to the bee. For to the bee a flower is a fountain of life, and to the flower a bee is a messenger of love, and to both, bee and flower, the giving and the receiving of pleasure is a need and an ecstasy. People of Orphalese, be in your pleasures like the flowers and the bees. Let's step once more into the pages of the Prophet, reflecting on the chapter on pleasure. Philosophical and psychological analysis. On pleasure from the very opening, Gibran disarms us. Pleasure is a freedom song, but it is not freedom. In just one line, he defines the delicate paradox that surrounds pleasure. It is joyful, yes. It is liberating, yes. But it is not ultimate liberation. Pleasure, in this view, is not the destination. It is a melody heard along the path. A blossoming, not a fruit. A winged moment, not the vast sky itself. It is meant to be felt, but not mistaken for fulfillment. The balance between experience and attachment. Gibran doesn't condemn pleasure, far from it. He affirms it. I fain would have you sing it with fullness of heart, yet I would not have you lose your hearts in the singing. Therein lies a psychological truth. Pleasure, when grasped too tightly, becomes addiction. When feared, it becomes repression. But when welcomed, like a song that comes and goes, it becomes part of our human symphony. Freud once suggested that much of human behavior is driven by the pleasure principle, our instinctive drive to seek gratification. But Gibran transcends this. He asks us to seek pleasure not with possession, but with presence. The seeker's journey. I may recognize yourself in this. Some of your youth seek pleasure as if it were all. I would not judge nor rebuke them. I would have them seek. This is our own journey, one of discovery. Gibran suggests that even mistaken quests for pleasure are part of the unfolding. Why? Because 7 are her sisters, and the least of them is more beautiful than pleasure. This implies that the pursuit of pleasure often leads us to deeper truths: love, beauty, wisdom, peace. As you seek, reflect, and feel, you are growing beyond pleasure into its source. The bee and the flower, a divine dance, Go to your fields and your gardens. The bee and the flower, this symbol is central. It speaks to reciprocal joy, not exploitative indulgence. The bee does not take, it gathers. The flower does not lose, it gives. In this harmony, Gibran dissolves the old dualism of spirit versus body, or sacred versus sensual. Pleasure is holy when it is shared, not hoarded. When it connects, not consumes. Psychologically, this image represents what Carl Rogers called congruence, when our inner values align with our outer actions. In that state, pleasure becomes a bridge, not a barrier. Suppression versus integration. In denying yourself pleasure you do but store the desire in the recesses of your being. This is profoundly true. Much of our suffering, personally, culturally, even spiritually, stems from repression of natural desires. Gibran is not promoting hedonism, but integration, a willingness to let our bodies and souls sing in harmony. This chapter invites you to make peace with your desire, not as a weakness, but as a whisper from your soul. Personal path. This is a journey. So let us ask together, what is pleasure to you right now, freedom song or fetter? In what areas do you feel the call to open, to receive, to blossom? Can you allow yourself to taste joy, not as escape, but as embodiment? I am learning that true pleasure is not the absence of pain, but the presence of aliveness. And I am beginning to recognize that you are not separate from the sacred. You are the bee and the flower. Closing reflection. Be in your pleasures like the flowers and the bees. May we walk through life gathering joy gently, giving sweetness freely, and trusting that even your seeking is part of a divine harmony. Thank you for sharing in my journey.